So of course, after a long war that includes political wars and court battles, Honorable Sabina Chege and former Secretary General of the Jubilee Party, Raphael Tuju, shared the same podium with the current principals of the United Opposition. So you see, this is very important because both Sabina Chege, who was an acting party leader of the Jubilee Party, and Honorable Raphael Tuju, who was the former Secretary General of the same party, were very, very active during the Azimio la Umoja time, when that was the coalition that was steering the unity of the parties in the 2022 elections and shortly after. Now, history has detailed it on the court battles that on whatever happened within the Jubilee Party until leadership structures were changed, and after that while we have not seen Honorable Raphael Tuju and Honorable Sabina Chege appearing in the public alongside the Jubilee Party for quite some time. Of course, you can even say that for Tuju, he exit, because you can't say he was removed, he exit his leadership position in the current rearrangement of the Azimio la Umoja leadership that was done by the patron Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta. So what does this tell you? Whereas Tuju and Sabina Chege might have not been in the public limelight as much, they hold their own political sides. And as it stands right now, the Jubilee Party is part and parcel of the United Opposition. That is where it sits. But Honorable Sabina Chege is part of the UDA camp. Now, yesterday, Honorable Onesmus Ngogoyo did not spare Honorable Sabina Chege in an exchange that was so public in front of Sabina Chege, telling her to stick to her decision. Now, we will make a little more of political comments on this particular story, but first let us listen to what the Member of Parliament, Honorable Onesmus Ngogoyo, had to say to Honorable Sabina Chege then as you hit the subscribe button.
Hata ukiongea leo ninaona heshima ya kanisa iko juu sana. Unajua ni rafiki yangu na unajua tunakutananga mahali mingi. Lakini kitu moja that I want to single out is your humility, especially when you told us to come to church. You told us what is going to happen in the service. Na kwa sababu mimi sitaki kusema mambo mengi, nataka niweke heshima ya huyu mama. Lakini niseme tu kitu kimoja. Come rain, come shine. Siasa ni kuweka msimamo. Sabina amechagua atakuwa mtu wa William Ruto. Aendelee pande ya William Ruto. Naye sisi tutakuwa watu ya Rigathi Gachagua. Ile tu tunaomba wale mna support William Ruto, msipange vita, msipange askari, tuombeni kura kwa Si hiyo ni sawa? Lakini pia ukikuja kuongea mambo, ukisema wewe utakuwa wa Rigathi Gachagua, tueleze juu watoto wanauliwa na wewe ni mama, mbona uongeagi mambo ya watoto kuuliwa? Pia unasemanga ukiwa nje wa Munyoro nyinyi. Kwa nini leo hujasema hiyo hapa? Kwa nini sasa ile mko na rais ndio mnamdanganya? Si hapa ungekuja utetee yeye na useme vile ameweka stima, ametengeneza mabarabara. Kwa nini usemangi hiyo? Ya mwisho, nishukuru kijana anaitwa Munyoro, tunafanya kazi na yeye na anafanya kazi vizuri. Na kama Munyoro atakuwa kwa debe na Sabina, please chagueni Munyoro. Huyo ndo agai.
Now, what also ended as a campaign blow to the political aspirations of Sabina Chege, in case she has those against the individual that Ngogoyo was talking about, it started as a stick of holding party positions. And now, you see, this is very, very interesting. It's not just a political exchange that is made in front of Rigathi Gachagua or in front of the United Opposition. Key principles between Honorable Onesmus and Sabina Chege. Sabina Chege was, until very recently, the acting party leader of the Jubilee Party. And of course, after the court battles and the party leadership went back to Uhuru Kenyatta, and the Secretary General, of course, went at that time to Jeremiah Kioni, before now it has transitioned again to Ole Kanta. That particular position was being held by Sabina Chege. Now, the reason why we are pulling this from the archives, that particular history of Sabina Chege's leadership within the party, is because the Jubilee Party is one of the parties that forms the core principles of the United united opposition, and within that particular arrangement right now, Honorable Okengo Matiang'i is the deputy party leader. So whereas Sabina might have crossed and jumped camps just the way like Waiguru did and everything, this was a party that if the battles of the court did not go the way they did, then Sabina would be the current party leader. Now these particular statements are necessary because on the backyard of Sabina being Muranga County, the re-election is knocking just in the next few months, and so the position that she's going to choose whether to stick with President William Ruto's UDA camp for her re-election or whether she's going to maintain her Jubilee party rather for her re-election is a determinant of the voters of the Muranga County. Now Mr. Ngogoyo is taking this as an advantage to remind the residents of Muranga County that when now Ruto is not in the face, then Sabina does not speak or chant of the things that they always do when President William Ruto is around. But beyond that, and very sensitively, is reminding the people of Muranga of the deaths of children that took place. Now see, politics is very sensitive, and if you bring in children and women in that particular spectrum, you have a chance of swinging the voter mindset to a particular direction. Now Sabina aside and Honorable Ngogoyo aside, and that direct exchange which happened right in front of Sabina's face, and of course in the presence of the co-principals of the united opposition, let us transition a bit to what Tuju said. Now Tuju has also not been in the public limelight for quite some time. During the Azimio time, because Azimio has been a talk lately since the 500 million disappeared. During that particular time that Azimio was facing President William Ruto's Kenya Kwanza in the ballot in 2022, Tuju was the Secretary General. Now Tuju was a very active Secretary General of that party until now. Later on, as I said, the leadership transitioned to other individuals including Kioni. Right now it's with Kanta on the Secretary General position. Now Tuju left that a bit, but Tuju has not been very active in the Kenyan political scene post 2022, and recently when the leadership arrangements within the Azimio coalition were being made, then you saw Tuju exit the previous position that he was holding within the Azimio party. Now you'd think that perhaps Tuju has distanced himself from the opposition and is rather alluring the President William Ruto's camp, but from Tuju's words, you'd know Tuju stands from Tuju himself.
Please, I want to request you that the problems of this country begin with the church. Si huko ndio sisi upeleka Harambee tukianza. All these politicians here, if you ask them, where can we meet people? They say, kanisani. So as church leaders, I like you to challenge you. Please talk to other church leaders across the country how we can heal this land. And I can say that with authority because I was a victim of post-election violence in 2007. I was the only person in my region who was supporting Kibaki. And they went, they attacked my cousin, and until today, he has no arm. He's a high school headmaster, but he doesn't have an arm, just because he was associated with the PNU at that time and associated with me as Raphael Tuju. I never talk about these things. From 2007 to 2018, my late mother could not go to the market because she was the mother of a Msaliti who followed Kibaki when everybody else was following Raila. So only in 2018, that is when my mother was able to go to the market because Raila had a handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta. What I'm telling you is that if this country descends into chaos, nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. The problem we have in this country, and I would like to explain to His Excellency Deputy President, I've not met him for a long time, so I've not had the opportunity to tell him this. And I can see Jane Kehara smiling because, you know, as politicians, we hatuna msimamo sana. Today we're here, tomorrow we're there. Huyu Jane, I was the first one to campaign for her at Naivasha under NAC. Tukaingia NAC Kenya, alafu tukaingia Jubilee, akaniwacha huko, akaenda UDA. Sasa naambiwa ametoka UDA ako DCP, the next one will be where. But that is the nature of us politicians. That's why I'm pleading with the church. Sorry I didn't acknowledge my sister Cicely Karaoke, with whom we in the same cabinet. So the biggest problem we have in this country, you have a problem here in Mount Kenya. And I hear you talking about Mount Kenya West, Mount Kenya East, but even more important is Kenya. And the problem you have in Mount Kenya, West or East or South or North, is youth population bulge. Watoto wetu tuko nao nyumbani, they are graduates, they don't have jobs. And according to World Bank simulations, most of them will not have jobs until they die, unless we change this country. Bwana Muturi here can confirm, same with the Deputy President, that when we left high school, went to university, the moment you left college, kama ni mwalimu, you already posted by Teacher Service Commission. Kama ni mtu ambaye amefanya government, kama bwana DP, straight to DO. Kama ni lawyer, straight to magistrate. Where are we today? And that problem is not just in Mount Kenya region. It is in Siaya, it is in Mombasa, it is everywhere. Youth population bulge, youth unemployment. We can play these games about this tribe against the other tribe. I can tell you, you don't have enemies in Lowland. You don't. You don't. We are all suffering as Kenyans. All of us. Kama wachache wakina Tuju ama somebody else amepewa kitu kidogo kwa brown envelope, ni huyo Tuju peke yake. But the rest of the country, the rest of the people are suffering. So really, moderator, nyinyi ndio wa Kristo na nyinyi ndio wanza hii maneno. We normally go to church to give you money, then you can take us this direction and that direction. I challenge you, talk to the other bishops, whoever they are, because I thought it's the same Jesus Christ we are following. Ama ni wawili, ama watatu, ama ni wa chama gani? In fact, today I learned for the first time, I was coming here as his friend of Jamlek, I found that there is a Linda Achieng here. So na mahari doesn't end. Immediately after this, tukutana nje ya tent, unipatie zangu. Thank you.
Now that was Tuju coming back to the political scene with statements that are weighty, sad, reflectory, and very important. Of course, first, other than just highlighting the leaders that he worked alongside, including Honorable Cecily Karaoke, a very good politician actually, who was serving in the Ministry of Water sometimes back, and sanitation, that is during Uhuru Kenyatta's time. He even recalls about the campaigns he did for Kihara, Jane in Naivasha. Now this is what struck me while Tuju was speaking. First, now in the recent past, like in the recent 1 month and 1 month and a half, Kenyans have been talking about the post-election violence in different spectrums. While that thing happened in Dodaya, where actually church was interrupted and the tear gas was thrown inside, you saw the quickest link to it was the Kiamba burning in 2007. And of course, Rigathi Gachagua has been out gun blazing, saying that the only fault, or rather the only thing that is reminding the Kikuyu people is of course what other individuals that he include President William Ruto's name in did in 2007. Now from Tuju's perspective, it's like the violence got closer home. And this was something that actually witnessed after the 2007-2008 post-election violence, when Tuju now had really developed Rarieda area, which was a very good constituency in the Siaya part compared to other constituencies in Siaya. You guys saw whatever came out of Atandi's constituency. If you look at Rarieda constituency, the primary development was not set by Honorable Nicholas Gumbo or was not set by Otindi Amolo, who is currently the MP. It was primarily set by this guy called Honorable Tuju, and even had a moving vehicle, actually, a moving hospital that was taking care of maternal issues for mothers, pregnant mothers. But when the politics came in 2007 and after 2007 in the early 2008, the people of Rarieda could not remember that. The only thing that most of them remembered was the fact that Tuju was against the Odingas, and the Odingas were also coming from Siaya. Yet Tuju was having PNU within the Siaya spectrum. It was a very serious thing. So him talking about it is very important, because we are witnessing a very build-up emotionally when it comes to the Kenyan political scene moving into 2027. And it's very important to call upon the church to actually talk to other church leaders and create a very conducive and a rebuking environment when it comes to politician involvement. Of course, it's true for most politicians, the direct contact with people is church. Church is cheap. Campaign wise, you're not going to use so much money. You are certain that the population will sit in there and listen to you. And for the opposition that do not have a lot of resources, or even if they have, it's still very, very early to unleash those resources against the vast resources of the government. The most primary place to meet people, the most primary place to meet people becomes the church. But you see, this is also very important to point out, ladies and gentlemen, that the distinction between religion and state is what keeps a country going. And so as much as we are opening our church spaces for politicians to walk into and sell their policies, which is very convenient because it's the most immediate way of reaching the local people directly, we also have to remember the small separation, or rather the big gap between religion and politics that have to be maintained for a country to walk out, to move forward soberly. It's a very, very sensitive area, because if you ignore the church, then you lose the votes, and if you involve yourself too much in the church, then you will also be seen as an individual that is now controlling the church. So it's also a very gray area for politicians to explore. Now, with those very many remarks post Tuju's statements, I wanted to play a bite of Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, who is a key principal of the United Opposition and who was present in this particular gathering. Other individuals were also present, including Okengo Matiang'i, Honorable Onyonka, and within this particular episode, later on as you interact with the People's Mirror and even the Civic Lens, you will find the stories there. But Rigathi Gachagua said something on the selection and kind of categorized himself yet again as a choice that the Muranga people should consider, coming just a week after revelations came that on a high-level meeting that was held by President Uhuru Kenyatta, Kalonzo was the preferred candidate for the United Opposition. And so we are aware that the United Opposition have not made their choice, but this categorical positioning of Gachagua might be a little bit troubling.
Uhuru Kenyatta na mimi na wengine viongozi ya mlima, tusikubali hii mlima igawanyike. President Uhuru Kenyatta naye Martha Karua, Justin Muturi are very responsible leaders. We know what to do in the fullness of time. Sisi hatuwezi kubali mtu yeyote agawanya hii mlima, kwa sababu ndio nguvu yetu. And we know our unity is our strength, and our future as a region is hinged on our unity. We will not allow anybody to divide this mountain. Na hii vita yote mnaona Ruto wakinipiga kunitumia watu waniue, ni kwa sababu nimemkatasa kugawanya hii mlima, na hatutakubalia, kwa sababu hii mlima ikigawanyika tumekwisha. Kwa hivyo hatutakubali kamwe. And the way Dr. Matiang'i, you have said, the people of this region are good people. And by the way, we are not tribal. Ruto anatuita wakabila saa hii. Tukimchagua alikuwa Mkikuyu, alikuwa Mwembu, alikuwa Mumeru, si alikuwa Mkaleji. Tulimchagua tukijua si mtu wetu. Saa hii tumemkataa, naita sisi wakabila. Sisi Dr. Matiang'i are good people. We look for good leadership. Na sisi tumekubaliana hapa ya kwamba Martha Karua amesimama. Tukiamua ni yeye, kura yote ya Mlima Kenya tutawekea kwa kika moja. Si ndio? Tukiamua ni huyu Fred Matiang'i, huyu kiongozi alifanya kazi na Uhuru Kenyatta, Kura yetu yote ya Mulima tunafanya nini? Tukiamua ni our cousin Kalonzo Musyoka, kura yetu tutampati, na tukiamua ni Rigiji. So
now that, ladies and gentlemen, marks the end of our first episode today, the People's Mirror. But interact with our channels both from the Civic Lens and here for more episodes within the day. Keep it here until our next episode.